Hey, fourth grade art friends, it's Mrs. Herbay. Today is the day that we are going to actually create the background for our foil metal birds. So what we're going to do is, this is my finished example, and you can kind of see we're going to be creating branches for our bird, actually a main branch for our bird to be sitting on, and then we're going to create some surrounding branches, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to create this pattern in the background. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to have your bird cut out of the metal and glued to the background. And if you haven't done this yet, what you can do is go back and watch the video before this. The lesson video before this explains how to do that. And if you use Elmer's glue, you're going to have to let it dry for a little bit of time. Okay, so once you have your bird glued onto your background, then we'll get started. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to lightly draw a border around our piece of black paper. I'm going to be using a white colored pencil so that you can see my pencil lines, but you will actually be using a pencil, and you will be able to see your pencil lines on the white paper because when I made my example one, I used the pencil. So what you can do is, if you have a ruler or a straight edge, you could use a straight edge, or if you want to just kind of eyeball it, you can do that too. And we're going to come in maybe about a fingernail's width. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and then I'm just going to carefully, I'm drawing a line up, and I'm trying to keep it about the same distance from the edge going up. And so I'm just kind of taking my time. Then when I get up to the top and I see, oh, I have about that much space again, then I'm just going to turn my piece of paper. And then again, I'm just going to slowly make my way. And again, if you're having trouble keeping it somewhat straight, again, you could grab you could grab like the edge of a piece of cardboard, or if you have a ruler, you can use that too. Or if you don't, you can just kind of do it this way. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go till we get the end, a little bit ways from the end again. And as you can see, my line's not exactly straight, and that's okay. You just want to have it to be roughly about the same distance. And then I'm going to start down here. Carefully taking my time, and then I have about the same distance here. So same thing, I'm going to now go and meet up with the end there. Okay, so now I have my border. So that is step number one. And then once you have that, we'll go on to the next step. All right, guys. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to draw the sort of a main branch that our bird is sitting on. And you can kind of decide, depending on how you glued your bird on, where you're going to draw that branch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the edge of this little claw here to make sure that it looks like the bird is attached to the branch and not just floating on top of it. And I'm just going to draw a diagonal line up like that. Okay? And then I'm going to then finish that line down here. Whoops! Mrs. Herbay broke the end of her colored pencil. And I'm going to go down to the end like this. Now, it's just a stick branch right now, and so I want to give it dimension. So I'm going to draw another line on the other side of this line. It's going to be parallel, going in the same direction. Now, you can decide if you want it to be a little bit wider at the top, if it gets thinner, if it gets a little wider. Again, you can kind of decide the makeup of the branch. I'm going to maybe have it be a little wider at the top And then I'm going to kind of have it come down and then just curve down like that. Okay, so there is my main branch. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add some other branches. So we're going to pretend either that our bird is in a bush or in a tree. And so as you guys know, this is a good review from when we did trees. You know about making the letter Y's with our branches. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have another branch that's going to maybe come up here. You can decide where you want to put your branches. And we don't need a ton of branches, but I'm going to kind of show you. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to stop where the bird is, and then I'm going to go up. And then again, you can decide if you want it to be a thinner branch or a thicker branch. I'm going to have it be thinner. So it kind of went up like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another branch that's kind of coming over here. And it might be a little wider at the base of that branch, and then it's getting a little bit thinner. All right. And if you wanted to, you could even add another one or another one. But what we want to do is we want to leave some some shapes that we can fill with patterns. So you don't want to make too many branches to have too many little tiny areas. So then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to do a couple more branches. And again, you can decide if you want it to go where you want them to attach to your main branch. I'm going to do one that kind of comes up here like this. And it's going to come down here. And it's going to go up like that. And then maybe I have this is a pretty big space here. So I could either add a branch onto that one, or maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this Y up into here like that. And then maybe I want to do, I have all this big space in here. So again, I can decide how I want to do that. And maybe I want to have like another bigger branch kind of coming off of there. And then maybe I'm going to have another branch that kind of comes up like this. And then maybe another one like that. So now I have the branches, okay? And then the next thing that I'm going to do is, if you have your pencil, what you are going to do is you are going to erase. Mine probably won't totally erase, but what you're going to do is you're going to erase where the branches go into this frame. So the branches are going to become part of the frame. So the branches are now the positive space, and then we're also going to erase, oops, we're going to erase in between where our branches kind of attach to each other too. So when you finish, this should just look like one continuous branch like this. And then I'm going to do the same thing over on this side, where I'm going to erase where these branches come into the frame. And where they come into each other. Just have a couple more. All right, then I'm just going to double check I have all of my lines lines erased. I have my lines erased where they come into each other. Then the last thing that you're going to do is you're actually going to draw a little bit around the edge of your bird. So for example, see how this line comes up here? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create that shape right there. So it kind of goes around this little part of the bird. And then same thing right here. I'm going to draw around right there where the bird is. And then here I'm going to draw around the beak. And around the body. And then it'll stop there, and then it'll pick back up over here where it's going to go around here. And like that. Okay. And then now what we have these areas of negative space, okay, that go around our bird. And inside of these shapes, what we are going to do is we are going to draw some leaf patterns or shapes. And you can decide the style of your leaf shapes. And what you could do first, if you wanted to, is you could grab a piece of scratch paper and practice some leaf shapes for a second. So I'm gonna grab some scratch paper and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. All right, guys, so I grabbed a little piece of just older copy paper. Actually, it was just scrap copy paper. And what you can do is to get, so when I did my background, I did sort of like traditional shape leaves with just the line down the middle. And you can kind of decide what type of shape that you want to do that kind of resembles a leaf. To do traditional leaf shapes, if you just do curve, and then it depends, if you do slight curve, you get a thin leaf shape, and then if you curve up and down, so if you go up a big hill and then down the big hill, up a big hill and then down the big hill, you get more of this kind of a shape. You could even do, if you felt like it, just if ovals were easier for you, instead of circles, or instead of like the football shape or the leaf shape, that's okay. So you can kind of just play around and figure out, kind of try some different things and kind of figure out how, maybe you want to have yours bigger with some veins on them. If they're smaller, maybe they would just have one vein. So you can kind of decide. And then after you play around with this, then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your bird on the branches. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose one of the areas of negative space, and you're going to fill it with your shapes. You don't want to have the shapes necessarily touch one another, and you can kind of decide on the size and the placement, okay? Or the direction of, okay? And then you're going to do that in all of your shapes, okay? And varying the size and the shape makes your artwork a little more interesting. So you can kind of play around with that. I think I'm going to put some veins on some of my larger ones. So go ahead, fill up each of the negative shapes with your leaf shape or design motif that you want to use, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright guys, we're in the final steps of our project. So when I filled in my background, I used a silver Sharpie, a metallic silver Sharpie, because I thought it would look really cool with the metallic of the bird. If you guys would like, and you don't have a silver Sharpie, if you can message me this week, I will put one in your supply bag that you can use and then return to me. If you are not interested in using the silver Sharpie, another thing that does work is if you have some colored pencils. So you can see that this white colored pencil worked really well here, drawing on here, and you could use the colored pencil to fill in you're going to see how I fill this in. So you could use a colored pencil to also fill in the area as well. So what we're going to do is now you're going to take your silver Sharpie or whatever you want to use to fill this in. And what you want to do first is you want to just outline, just want to neatly outline the leaf shapes that you drew. So I'm just going to do that in this particular section right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to outline this shape. So this particular shape is right here. So that's all I'm worrying myself with, okay? Then after I outline that, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully just color in the background of this shape. And so all I have now okay, so there we have it. Then what you'll do is you'll move on to your next shape. So here are the leaves that are in my next shape. So I'm going to outline those. Then after I outline those, I'm going to outline this shape, right? And then after I outline that shape, then I'm just going to fill in nice and carefully, taking my time. If I take my time, then I'm able to stay in the lines and not color where I don't want to. The problem is most people, when they're coloring, they're like, oh, I want to get this done. I want to go super fast. And when you go super fast, that's when you tend to go out of the lines and it looks a little bit messy. So you want to take your time, and outlining definitely helps fill that in, okay? I'll do one more to kind of show you to get the idea, and then you guys will go ahead and do it on your own. So I'm outlining my leaf shapes. Okay, and then I'm outlining the shape that it's inside of. So I'm really just worried about these shapes And when I finish, what's kind of cool is by coloring in these negative spaces, what's going to happen is it's going to make the branches stand out. But we're not going to really focus on the branches. We're just focusing on these negative space shapes. Okay. So there you have it. So now you're just going to keep going. If you get a little tired, you can take a break and come back to it until you get all of your shapes filled in. Okay. All right, guys, and there you have it. Your finished foil metal bird. So if you happen to get this finished, I will have a link for you to take a photo and to upload your the picture of your finished work. I look forward to catching up with you guys this week to hear about your winter break, and I'll talk to you guys soon.